Before this vid starts, I wanna say that this is a fanfic link in the description, and that the story isn't a finished one, so don't expect a end. I didn't make this, so I have no control of when it ends. Talking. Thinking. Drag talking and sacred gear sounds. Drag thinking. Expression. Flashback. Chapter 1, Heartbreak. Issei, to you, what am I? Who am I? Asked Rias, her back to Issei. To me president is president. Said Issei, slightly confused. Idiot. Cried Rias, he voiced, sounding as though she was crying, a sob escaping her throat. Rias rushed out of the club room. Asia rushed to the door, but paused to look back at Issei. Issei, you are horrible. It's too much. Why can't you understand Rias' feelings? Questioned Asia, tears in her eyes, confusing Issei, before she went after Rias. That wasn't right, Issei. Said Yuto with a sigh. And not right as in what? Asked Issei in confusion. That, exactly that. I can understand very well what the girls are going through. Said Yuto, sounding exasperated. Exactly. It is natural for Rias and Asia to get mad. Scolded Akeno, sounding angry as well. Even I, who is dense at these sorts of things, thought you were a bit off, Issei. Chimed in Zenovia. Mao. Issei, sure is a no-no. Poor Rias. Added Irina, sounding mad as well. You are the worst. Said Konako as a cold voice. Issei, meanwhile, was utterly confused and had no idea why everyone was looking at him in such disappointment and anger. I don't get it, what did I do? Thought Issei, before turning to Gasper. Hey Gasper, am I really bad here? Asked Issei desperately. Gasper seemed somewhat uncomfortable, but answered nonetheless. Yes, I think you are very bad. Said Gasper timidly, causing Issei to drop to his knees. This is the fault of my mother and I, right? I'm sorry. Said Ravel, getting Issei to look at her strangely. How is this Ravel's fault? Questioned Issei. Akeno walked over to Ravel and placed her hands on her shoulders. This isn't your fault, Ravel. Issei is most at fault here because he never tried to think about the crucial thing between Rias and himself until now. Said Akeno kindly, causing Ravel to perk up. The atmosphere was so tense, Issei couldn't take it and abruptly left the room, getting some surprised expressions from those in the club room. Do you think he will go to Rias and make things right? Asked Yuto curiously. I hope so. Rias looked crushed. Said Akeno. I just don't understand why Issei keeps acting like this. Said Zenovia with a sigh. Hopefully, Issei-senpai will fix everything. Said Gasper hopefully. Line break. I don't understand, why was everyone so angry with me, what did I do? Thought Issei, as he clenched his fist. I can't take this anymore, this sense of unknowing, not knowing if President loves me or not, if all the girls love me or not, or if. Thought Issei, before a face flashed in his mind. Will you die for me? Issei clenched his chest as he entered his house. Both his parents were out shopping. Their new house required lots of supplies after all. Issei chuckled dryly. Is that all I was to them, the prized Red Dragon Emperor, someone to show off in front of others, but never be honest with? Thought Issei, the pain of that very thought, caused him to scrunch his eyes up. Well, no more. I know it wasn't the best idea, to continue to be such an open pervert. I love boobs so much, but it seems none of them take me seriously because of it. Thought Issei, remembering the verbal assault he had just taken, as he entered his room. No more. I can't do this anymore. Shouted Issei internally, as he started to cry. The sense of not knowing, the sense of fear, that feeling of uncertainty. Thought Issei, as he closed his eyes shut tightly. Will you die for me? No more. Whispered Issei, as he quickly packed a backpack with all he needed from his room, before heading down to the kitchen. No more. Muttered Issei sadly, as he grabbed enough food to last him for a few weeks. No more. Said Issei, as he closed the door behind him and dropped his key on the mat. No more. Shouted Issei, as a red glow suddenly encompassed his being and a magic circle appeared under him. A massive amount of energy burst from Issei's form, so strong, that everyone in Kyoto felt it, even those who were not magically aware. Will you die for me? Roared Issei in agony, before he vanished in a burst of red energy. Line break. Kiba-senpai, said Gasper timidly, sometime after Issei had left the clubroom. What is it, Gasper? Asked Yuto. Was it fair for all of us to gang up on Issei-senpai like that? Asked Gasper. What do you mean, Gasper? We didn't gang up on him, replied Yuto. Well, he did seem to be really confused, added Ravel timidly. You have a point, Issei did seem to be genuinely confused, but why? Added Zenovia. Do you think we were a bit too hard on him? Asked Irina. Well, Issei needs to understand how Rias feels, it is important to all of us as well. If Issei can't admit his feelings to Rias, then how is he? Oh no, said Akeno, suddenly coming to a realization. What is it, Akeno? Asked Yuto curiously. Issei couldn't admit his feelings to Rias. That was it, shouted Akeno in realization. What do you mean? Asked Irina. The last person Issei admitted his feelings to, said Akeno, as a look of shock appeared on her face. Rainare, said Konako suddenly, as her eyes widened. Yuto's eyes widened at this. Of course, how could we forget? Shouted Kiba in horror. What do you mean? Who is Rainare? Asked Irina curiously. Issei's first and only girlfriend, one who he confessed his love to, but she was a fallen angel and she killed him, for the boosted gear, said Akeno sadly. So do you think that because of that, he can't admit his feelings to anyone, not even Rias? Asked Zenovia. Poor Issei-senpai, what have we done? Whimpered Gasper. At that moment a huge wave of power was felt, along with a pained and anguished roar. Is that Issei? Oh no, quick. We need to go find him, shouted Akeno, before they all ran to the sound of the voice. Line break. Rias was currently crying in a bathroom, her eyes puffy and swollen. Rias, are you okay? Asked Asia kindly, as she entered the bathroom and spotted Rias at the sinks. Sniffo, I'm fine, Asia. What are you doing here? Asked Rias. I came to check up on you, Issei isn't being very nice to you right now, which is unlike him, said Asia timidly. Sniff, well, I don't know what to tell you, Asia. I just can't get a straight answer from Issei, said Rias sadly. I'm sure he loves you, Rias, he would do anything for you, said Asia comfortingly, as she walked over to Rias and patted her on the shoulder. I just don't know anymore, it was easy in the beginning, he was a blunt pervert who loved breasts and said mine were the best. He fought tooth and nail to save me from Riser and from any other threats, said Rias fondly with a hiccup. I still remember when Issei first met me. He was so kind and honest, almost childlike, said Asia with a smile. Yeah, I remember when he woke up next to me for the first time, he was so nervous, commented Rias with a small smile. And I remember how he cried for me and called me his friend, even as I was dying in his arms. Issei wanted me to be happy, said Asia. The two reminisced in their memories for a moment before Rias remembered something. Although, after you died, he was heartbroken. His power rose dramatically and he even took down that fallen angel all by himself. I was so proud of him, said Rias. Yes, I heard that he defeated Rainare, all for my sake, said Asia fondly. The two smiled at this, before they both came to the same realization. Rainare. They both cried, before feeling an immense wave of power, and a loud, pained roar of anguish that actually shattered the mirrors in the girls' bathroom. Oh no, quickly. Asia, come stand next to me, shouted Rias to Asia, who obliged, before a large red magic circle appeared under the two. The two disappeared in a flash of red and appeared just outside the gates of the Hyudu household. The two ran up to the door before stopping at the doormat. Rias slumped to her knees in shock, while Asia raised her hands to her face and stifled a gasp, as she tried to hold back her tears. Moments later, everyone from the club room arrived as well and saw both Asia and Rias crying. Akeno looked to see what they were crying over, before she too, cried as well. The rest of the girls did the same in turn, with Gasper crying as well when he saw the doormat, while Kiba clenched his fist in anger. There, on the mat of the Hyudu household, along with Issei's keys, were 8 pawn pieces. Chapter 2. Talking. Thinking. Drag talking and sacred gear sounds. Drag thinking. Expression. Flashback. Chapter 2, The Truth Hurts. But big brother, it's been almost a month now, cried Rias in annoyance. I'm sorry Rias, but no one can find Issei. He expelled his pieces and thus isn't astray, but for the same reason, we have no way of tracking him at all. There really isn't anything we can do. Also, I know it isn't something you want to think about right now, but we have postponed the match with Sarayorg long enough. You'll have to face him this week," said Sertsk's gravely. "Well then, it's your lucky day, isn't it?" "Because I'm back," said a voice, before a golden glow shone in the room, before Issei was revealed. Issei was clad in his school uniform, but he appeared noticeably buffer than before. His shirt and pants all strained against his body now, and his face had thinned slightly, giving his features a sharper look. "I am possible, Issei," said Rias in shock. "That's right, it is me, Rias," said Issei with a smile on his face. Rias smiled at this and went to run into Issei's arms, before she felt herself being held back. When she turned to yell at the person holding her back, she saw her brother, with an unusually stern expression. "Yes, Rias, I'm back, not for you of course, I'm back for school. It has been a whole month after all and I can't fall behind in my studies," said Issei mockingly, a smirk on his face. "What are you talking about, Issei?" questioned Rias in confusion. "Rias, said Issei, as he shook his head, causing everyone in the room to look at Issei warily. Ironically, everyone in the room right now, with the addition of Sertsk's, were those who were there before Issei left. "You really are a spoiled little princess, aren't you?" questioned Issei, as a look of anger appeared on his face. "What do you mean?" asked Rias, sounding a little hurt. "I died, in your sick twisted schemes. You could have told me to stay away from Rainier. After all, even then, and until just recently, I would have done everything you said. I died and was brought back as a devil, just so you could get a strong piece, to get you out of your marriage to Riser. I nearly died doing it too. I didn't care though, I loved you after all," said Issei, getting Rias to smile in joy, before she heard his words properly. "Loved?" asked Rias hesitantly. "Yes, loved because now, I hate you Rias Grammary," snarled Issei, driving a stake right through Rias' heart and shocking everyone in the room. "Why? What do you mean?" asked Rias tearfully. "I did everything for you, I died for you and I risked life and limb for you. I followed you into hell literally and figuratively, just because you cared for me, or so I thought," said Issei sourly. "But I do care for you Issei, I love you," shouted Rias in tears. "Do you now?" asked Issei, with a deadly flat tone. "Yes, Issei, I love you with all my heart and soul, and want to spend the rest of our lives together," cried Rias. "Words, nothing but sweet words. The very same words I would have died to hear from you just a month ago, but now, they mean absolutely nothing to me," said Issei, getting Rias to gasp. "You only ever thought about yourself. While I did my best to have you accept me and truth be told, you did to some extent, you never acted like a loved one. No, all this time, you used me as you saw fit. Then, and here comes the kicker, when you couldn't get one thing from me, one thing, do you know what you did?" asked Issei rhetorically. "You broke what was left of my heart," said Issei in a cold tone, which sent shivers up the spine of everyone. "I'm sorry Issei," cried Rias, openly weeping now. "I didn't realize that Rainier had hurt you that badly," continued Rias. "I wonder why," said Issei coldly, getting Rias to stop crying momentarily. "What do sniff you mean?" asked Rias in confusion. "What I mean, is that you never cared about me," shouted Issei, causing Rias to recoil. "All this year, you've been using me, flaunting your red dragon emperor. Sure, I got strong under you, but what did you actually do? You might have been affectionate, physically with me, but, emotionally, they say no man is an island, but they must have never met you, Rias Grammary," hissed Issei. "You never acknowledged my emotions. You knew I loved you, yet, you toyed with me. Do you know how much that hurt me? I couldn't think, I didn't know the truth, constantly asking myself, does she really love me, as a partner? Then, no matter how many separate occasions you had, to heal the nagging doubt in my heart and mind, what did you do? Of course, make it all about you. You, Rias Grammary. Forget about Issei. Who cares if Issei has deeply seated emotional and trust issues, I just want him to say my name, because that means he loves me. Not like he hasn't proved it already, nearly dying for my sake. No, I need him to say my bloody name," shouted Issei, turning Rias into a sobbing mess. Issei breathed in for a moment before resuming. "In any case, I am done with you, Rias Gremory, but let me fill you in on what happened to me a month ago," said Issei calmly, getting everyone to look at him, even the sobbing Rias. "You see, ejecting the evil pieces from my body should have killed me. It was only thanks to Drake sustaining my life force that I managed to survive. You nearly, literally killed me, with your selfishness," said Issei before pausing. "But then, I saw an angel, once again, quite literally," said Issei, getting a gasp from Irina. "That's right, Irina, I'm an angel now, just like you, well, maybe not just like you," said Issei, before 10 wings burst from his back. What, 10 wings already? Be both the color," said Irina in surprise. "Yes, a little thanks to Drake, my wings are now the same red of my balance breaker, although, you want to know the best part?" said Issei with a smirk. "I can't fall, ha 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 ha," laughed Issei, seeing the gobsmacked expressions on their face. "No way," shouted Irina in surprise. "It's true, I've even already lost my virginity since having them, and did it a few more times after that for good measure. I'll be an angel until the day I die," said Issei, dropping numerous revelations. What? asked Rias in shock. "Oh, but I do believe I've gotten off topic. Ah yes, Gabriel saving me," said Issei with a nod. "Well, as you might have guessed, it wasn't easy turning me. Drake comes at a hefty price, no matter what conversion system you use," said Issei proudly. "So, does that mean you are Gabriel's ace?" asked Irina curiously. "Oh, heavens no, a simple ace would not be enough," said Issei cheerfully. "No way, you can't mean," said Irina before trailing off at the end. "That's right, along with Dulio, I'm the other Joker," confirmed Issei with a smirk. "But you want to know the really good part, Rias," said Issei, getting Rias to look at him attentively. "When Gabriel found me, barely clinging to life, only inches away from death's door, do you know what she said to me?" asked Issei. Rias remained silent. "These were her words exactly: 'I can see that your heart is in pain, you have suffered much and gained little, for this reason, I will give you a third chance at life. I won't ever turn on you, or ask you for more than you can give. Know that you have my love, forever, and be strong. Become my Joker," finished Issei, before glaring at Rias. "A woman, no, a literal angel, did more for me in 2 minutes, than you've done for me, ever since I joined your little peerage. It must mean, that for someone who supposedly loves me, you have a terrible way of showing it. I suppose it is appropriate though, Gabriel is an angel and you are, in every sense of the word, a devil," said Issei harshly. Rias couldn't take it anymore and fled, just like before. "Also, Sertsk, since you are here, I suppose you should know, the little ceremony with Satan Red, that's all over now. I want nothing to do with Rias. Also, you should know, that I've arranged for my Oppi Dragon royalties to go to my own, personal bank account," said Issei coolly. "You know, Issei, don't you think you are being a bit harsh? Rias explained what happened to me, and while I can agree with you, that she didn't understand your feelings, isn't this a bit much?" questioned Sertsk. "I suggest you wake up from your Siscon delusions and realize just how shallow of a person Rias is," said Issei, getting Sertsk to frown. "She complained how shallow Riser was, but she hurt me in ways you can't even imagine. Don't tell me this is too much, since I wanted to do a lot worse, but I promised Gabriel," said Issei. Issei, are you sure you mean that?" asked Sertsk, as his lips thinned. "Go on then, you don't like it? Kill me. I'm sure when the other Satans find out you killed the Red Dragon Emperor, an angel, and restarted the Great War, they will happily indulge you in all your Siscon delusions," retorted Issei. "You're playing a dangerous game here, Issei," warned Sertsk. "On the contrary, I'm done being played with," replied Issei firmly. Sertsk didn't respond and merely disappeared back to the underworld, using a magic circle. "Well, now that the main problem is out of the way, allow me to tell you what I think about all of you, for absolutely breaking me and pushing me to the point of no return," said Issei. "Issei, we didn't know," said Akeno, before Issei cut her off. "I'll deal with you last," said Issei harshly, causing Akeno to recoil. Firstly, Zenovia and Irina. "Zenovia, you yourself said you were dense. I guess that was right, since you were so dense you didn't realize how much pain I was in. Irina, for a supposed angel and a supposed childhood friend, you suck at both roles. Said Issei harshly, causing them to look down in shame. That being said, since neither of you were here, when the event that scarred me for life took place, I can't be overly angry with you two. However, at this stage, I couldn't care less about either of you. Said Issei indifferently. Gasper, you are actually my second favorite person in this room right now. I could tell that you, even during the verbal assault I took, were hesitant to add to it, seeing that something was wrong with me. For that reason, I don't hate you, and do in fact acknowledge you, but you are a pretty bad friend. Said Issei sadly, which caused Gasper to look down. Ravel, honestly, I hold none of this against you at all. Said Issei, getting Ravel to look at him in surprise. You didn't say anything hurtful and even tried to apologize. For that, I am thankful, and right now, you are the only one I see as a friend of mine in this room. Said Issei with a smile, before his face hardened. You though Asia, I am immensely annoyed with. Said Issei, getting the former nun to look at him in surprise. I fought tooth and nail to save you from Rainare. I cried in agony when you died. I attacked Rainare in fury for what happened to you, and lastly, I begged Rias to save you, to give you a new life. You said I was your first friend. I wish I never was. The holy maiden who can heal all, even a devil, couldn't heal the pain in her supposed friend's heart, and in fact, thinks her friend is horrible. Said Issei, getting Asia to cry in sadness. As for you three, said Issei looking at Akeno, Kiba, and Konako. Let's start with the littlest one first. Said Issei, as he faced Konako. You, who watched me from the shadows, from the beginning of it all. You, who fought with me in the church. You who claimed to care for me. No, Konako, I'm not the worst. You are. Said Issei in a flat tone. You know what the best part is though? Questioned Issei rhetorically, as Konako matched his gaze. In 1 month, I gained control over something that, to this day, terrifies you. Said Issei, getting Konako to look at him with fearful eyes. That's right. Said Issei, before gathering Senjutsu chakra around him. Although, the best part, is who taught me, Eni, Chiron. Said Issei, getting Konako to look at him in panic. That's right, you know who, she also took my virginity. She is one feisty cat, that Kurika. Said Issei, shocking many. Now to you, pretty boy. Said Issei, glaring at Yuato. You can understand what the girls are going through, huh? Said Issei darkly. Issei, we didn't know. Said Yuato weakly, before Issei cut him off. Bull. You of all people, someone who was damaged so badly as a kid, you couldn't see the pain I was going through? All you could see, was what that entitled little princess felt. Said Issei, getting Kiba to frown. Issei, that isn't fair. Said Yuato. Fair, hee because it was totally fair, for everyone to turn on me like that, huh? Questioned Issei, spitting out the word fair in anger, before turning to Akeno. And now you. Said Issei, to a slightly frightened Akeno. You, someone who had problems with fallen angels your whole life, you couldn't see my pain, a pain, which I just recently helped you get through. Questioned Issei. I'm so sorry, Issei. Said Akeno, tears beginning to form in her eyes. You know what I'm not sorry about? Asked Issei coldly. I'm not sorry at all, about the fact that I can't fall, because if I ended up becoming a fallen angel like you and that bitch Rainare, I might just kill myself. Said Issei darkly. Will you die for me? Issei snarled momentarily, before schooling his features. Well, in any case, that's all I had to say. Now, I think I will go to class, since I've missed so much already. Said Issei, before he left the club room, slamming the door behind him. What have we done? Questioned Akeno sadly, as she wiped her tears. We pushed Issei over the edge. It seems all of us turning on him, was too much for him. Said Yuato sadly. Do you think he will ever forgive us? Asked Asia, eyes swimming with tears. I don't think so. Said Yuato grimly. Chapter 3. Talking. Thinking. Drake talking and sacred gear sounds. Drake thinking. Expression. Flashback. Chapter 3, Genetics. Kuriko was lazily swinging her legs, over the arm of a large, red grandfather chair, The rest of her was curled up against the back of it. She was humming slightly, which caused Vala to look at her after a minute or two. "You seem surprisingly cheerful, Kurika. More than usual, I mean," said Vala. "Naya? Oh, I guess that makes sense. I'm finally on track to achieving my goal, Naya," said Kurika playfully. "Which goal?" asked Vala. "To bring back the Nikomata race, of course, Naya," said Kurika cheerfully, still swinging her legs in happiness. "Really now? With who?" asked Vala, genuinely curious, since he knew Kurika would only accept a strong mate. "Hee, you're so funny, Vala, you're opposite, of course," said Kurika with a giggle. "Hyuda. I didn't think he had it in him," commented Vala with a raised eyebrow. "Well, just recently, I had him in me, Naya," purred Kurika lustfully. "I must say, I'm surprised," said Vala disinterestedly. "Naya? You didn't even pick up on my hint at all, Naya," said Kurika with a pout. "What hint?" asked Vala distractedly. "When I said he was your opposite, I meant that in more ways than one," said Kurika seriously. "Really? I know he has the red dragon, but how does that make him my opposite, in more ways than one?" asked Vala, bringing his attention back to Kurika. "Just think about it, Vala Lucifer, Naya," teased Kurika, stressing the word Lucifer. Vala paused for a moment and mulled this over, before looking at her with a raised eyebrow and a slightly disbelieving expression. "You can't be serious," said Vala. "Naya, he really is an angel," said Kurika dreamily. "The energy coming off him was irresistible, and the best part is, he was perfectly fine with me being a devil, as well as a stray, and gave me exactly what you want, Naya," said Kurika happily. "Wouldn't an angel fall, having impure thoughts, not to mention sex with a devil?" queried Vala in interest. "Well, as it turns out, he can't fall. I think we figured that out, the 8th time we did it, Naya," said Kurika thoughtfully. "I see, how interesting," said Vala. "Oh, and not only that, since we did it so much, while I was at it, I even restored the life force he lost, from when he went into Juggernaut Drive a while ago," added Kurika happily. "Anything else?" asked Vala curiously. "Naya, well, I did teach him Senjutsu as well, and he picked it up, really, quickly. Especially, since every time he showed reasonable improvement, we did it again, Naya," said Kurika happily. "Very interesting, perhaps the next time we fight, he might even be able to beat me," said Vala thoughtfully. "Well, as long as he keeps beating me, with his not-so-little dragon afterwards, I don't mind. It will take a lot to get me pregnant outside of mating season, but, at the very least, I can get plenty of practice in," purred Kurika in anticipation. Line break. "Gabriel, are you sure this was the right thing to do?" asked Michael, having just had a rather tense conversation with Sertsk's. "Of course, Michael," replied the voluptuous, curly-haired blonde seraph, known as Gabriel. "We couldn't just let the Red Dragon Emperor perish like that, and his heart was in so much pain. I had to help him. All he ever wanted was someone's unconditional love, so I gave him mine," said Gabriel pleasantly. "Well, you do have a point, losing Issei would have been disastrous, and the boy has a rather pure heart, whether that is for the best is debatable," said Michael with a smile, which caused Gabriel to laugh. "Well, I don't know about that," said Gabriel, before her beautiful, smiling visage became uncharacteristically serious. "The pain he was in, he was utterly heartbroken, like no one I have ever seen before. Michael, if you saw him now, on the surface, you would think he had only changed slightly, but, I spent days with him, helping him acknowledge his heart and just what people mean to him. It wasn't easy, Michael, he was shattered and I barely managed to save him. Now though, he has changed, however, I do believe it is for the better, as now, he can open up to others once again," said Gabriel with a frown, sounding somewhat sad. "I see. I did not know that Issei was suffering so much," said Michael. "Yes, as it seems, no one did. Which is what pushed Issei to his breaking point," said Gabriel sadly. Line break. "Ah, it feels good, Drake, I'm back and everything is better than ever," thought Issei happily. "I must say though, I've never heard of such a thing happening before. True, all my hosts had members of the opposite sex flock to them, I've just never seen my host turn so many away," commented Drake. Well, We already established I'm one of the strangest hosts you've ever had. Thought Issei. True, but with your natural lust and perversion. I never could have seen something like this happening, ever. Admitted Drake. Will you die for me? Issei frowned slightly, before replying. People change, Drake. Even you, after so many years, have changed yourself. Thought Issei, before finally reaching his classroom. I'm back. Shouted Issei, as he opened the door and walked into the room, causing everyone to gawk at him. Hayuda? Where have you been for the past month? Questioned the teacher. She had an average appearance of average height, brown eyes, brown hair reaching down to her shoulder blades and a rather slim figure. I've been on a journey of self-discovery. Said Issei. Whoa, Hayuda got bigger. Commented one of the boys in Issei's class. I see, in any case, it is good to have you back, but can you please take your seat, so I may continue the lesson? Said the teacher sternly. Of course, excuse my disrespect. Said Issei, as he gave a charming smile. Is that really Hayuda? Asked one of the girls in the class, as Issei made his way to his seat. The rest of the class proceeded without any fanfare, save for the occasional student glancing back at Issei. After class finished and the teacher had left, Issei was quickly swarmed by Motohama and Matsuda. Where have you been, Issei? Asked Motohama, as his glasses gleamed. Yeah. At first, we thought you were just stuck in your bed or something. Said Matsuda, getting looks of disgust from some of the girls sitting nearby. That's disgusting. Shouted Murayama. Quiet you. You don't understand the pleasures of flesh? Retorted Motohama. Haha, oh, that's funny guys. Said Issei, getting the few people around him, namely Ikakiryu, Murayama, and Katase, to look at him oddly, along with Matsuda and Motohama. What do you mean, Issei? We are brothers in the knowledge of flesh? Shouted Matsuda, his shiny bald head gleaming. Yeah, but have either of you actually had sex? Asked Issei bluntly, getting a small blush out of Murayama and Katase, while Kiryu looked on in interest, as the two perverts hung their heads momentarily. Hey! You haven't either. Shouted the perverted duo, which only made Issei laugh. I wouldn't be so sure. Teased Issei in a sing-song voice, getting those around him to gape. No way, Hayuda had sex. Said Katase in disbelief. I wonder if that is why he got so buff. Whispered Murayama. Huh? Big talk, but where is your proof? Asked Ikakiryu, as she looked at Issei with a grin, causing a few of their surrounding classmates to listen in on the conversation and turn to face Issei. Well, aside from the fact that I just did it before I came to school today and didn't have time to shower, so you can still practically smell her on me. Said Issei, getting the five of them to gape. Why don't I give you some physical evidence? Questioned Issei rhetorically, as he took off his blazer, revealing that his arms were straining at the fabric of his white dress shirt. Issei then took off his white dress shirt, leaving him only in his red t-shirt, revealing his arms to the classroom, which drew quite a few blushes from the girls, and a few looks of envy, mixed with grudging respect from the boys. Lastly, Issei turned around, so his back was facing everyone, before he took off his red shirt, getting a few gasps. Holy shit, Issei. What happened to your back? Questioned Matsuda, for along Issei's back were numerous angry red scratch marks. Like I said, physical evidence. She is a wild cat in bed and she can take one hell of a pounding. Said Issei, as he put his shirt back on, along with the rest of his clothes, the rest of the class still gaping from what he just said. No way. Was Hayuda serious? Asked Murayama in a whisper. They did look fairly genuine. Said Kiryu, commenting on the marks they just saw on his back. Lies. Issei. There is no way that is the truth. Tell us this is all a sick joke. Cried Motohama indignantly. Nope, besides, this wasn't the first time we did it and it won't be the last. Said Issei casually. How? Who? Why? Shouted Matsuda. How? Well, you saw for yourself how the girls in this class reacted to my body and you guys know that despite my perverseness, I'm not that bad of a guy. I'd do anything for my friends. Said Issei with a frown, as he recalled an image, which was appearing more and more frequently in his mind. Will you die for me? As for who? I'll leave that until the end. The why though, is because I have superior genetics. Said Issei before going silent. Well, who is it? Asked Motohama, both in excitement and envy. Kurika. Said Issei simply. That doesn't tell us anything. Shouted the perverted duo. Oh, right, did I forget to mention that Kurika is Konako's big sister. Also, when I say big, I'm not just talking about her age in comparison to Konako. Said Issei, getting jaws to drop throughout the classroom. No way. Said Matsuda in shock. Konako has a big sister. Continued Motohama. Yep, although, they aren't on the best of terms. Oh, and I'll say this now, she's mine, so don't even think about it. Said Issei. I can't believe. Hyudo had sex with someone, him. Said Murayama. Well, if you want, I could show you what it's like. Teased Issei with a grin, getting Murayama to blush and splutter refusals. Oh, that's too bad. If Kurika is to be believed, I'm apparently very good at it. I mean, just ask everyone who heard us near the edge of town this morning. Said Issei, getting wide-eyed looks from everyone. Issei smirked at this, before he felt someone looking at his crotch, and looked to where he felt the gaze coming from, only to see Kiryu gazing at it with a blush. Impressive, isn't it? Asked Issei, getting Kiryu to nervously chuckle and look away. Well, you're not short of power, that's for sure. Said Kiryu perversely, getting Murayama, Katase, Motohama and Matsuda to look at him in shock. Like I said, superior genetics, in more ways than one. Said Issei with a smirk, which caused Murayama and Katase to blush slightly at the implication, while Matsuda and Motohama hung their heads in shame and envy. Chapter 4. Talking. Thinking. Drake talking and sacred gear sounds. Drake thinking. Expression. Flashback. Chapter 4. Responsibility. Issei was walking home after the school day. Not the Hyudo residence, which had been taken over by the members of the Occult Research Club, but rather, his apartment. Yes, his apartment, not a single room, but a whole apartment that he had purchased, with assistance from Kurika. It seemed being bad, really did pay well. It wasn't particularly large, but it wasn't small either. 3 separate floors, with 2 rooms on each level. Each room about the size of a small, 1-bedroom house, complete with kitchen and bathroom. Issei climbed the stairs to his room, which was the room on the right, on the 3rd floor. Issei pulled out his key and opened the door and saw, perhaps the one person he was most conflicted about, sitting on his couch by the small coffee table. Yo, Issei. Said Azazel, the leader of the fallen angels. Issei frowned slightly, before entering his room and closing the door behind him. What are you doing here? Azazel. Asked Issei in a clipped tone. Oh, such an interesting response. I was expecting you to sling curses at me. Confessed Azazel honestly with a smirk. You are, perhaps, the only person I've yet to make my mind up about. Replied Issei, as he walked to the small kitchen and filled up a glass with water, which he briefly sipped at. Oh, and why is that? Asked Azazel curiously. You have helped me a great deal. It is thanks to your help that I have actually managed to become stronger as a person. Even your perverted input was interesting at times. You weren't wrong about Gabriel. Said Issei, as he placed his cup down on the kitchen counter, while Azazel merely looked up at him in interest from his place on the couch. Yes, I heard you had been reincarnated by Gabriel. As interested as I am by how that was possible, I'm rather envious at the relationship you have with her now. I would honestly give my other arm for a chance like that. Said Azazel jovially. Yes, that aside though. Said Issei, before he heard that same voice in his head again. Will you die for me? On some level, I loathe you. Said Issei, as he picked up his glass, downed the rest of his water, and walked over to Azazel, staring at him from across the coffee table. That is what I was expecting from you, to be honest. Said Azazel with a nod. I respect you, as a sensei, as someone who is knowledgeable on sacred gears, as a strong fighter, but you are a really shitty leader. One who can't keep his subordinates in line, Cockabile for example. Said Issei bluntly. Is it really Cockabile that you are annoyed with, Issei? Said Azazel seriously. Will you die for me? Issei snarled, clenching his fist in annoyance. No. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Said Issei, anger seeping into his tone. Oh, and who would that be? Asked Azazel calmly. Don't fuck with me, Azazel. You let that bitch Rainare roam free and I suffered for it. shouted Issei, his temper snapping at Azazel's calm questioning. Well, I suppose that is true. Although, you did have ample opportunity to confront me about it, said Azazel, still in that annoyingly calm tone. Yeah, like when I confronted you about it at the meeting between the devils, angels, and fallen angels. That went well, didn't it? Asked Issei sarcastically. Well, the situation was different then. Things were too serious then. I couldn't indulge your whims at the time, replied Azazel in an even tone. Issei glared at Azazel, but didn't say anything. You know, they, and I'm sure you know who, are facing Sarayorg in his peerage tomorrow, said Azazel, changing the topic. Humph, like I care, huffed Issei. They most likely will be defeated without you. Not just because of your strength, but also because of the strength you give them, pointed out Azazel honestly. Well, if that was the case, then they should have cared more about my feelings, if I was as important to them as you say, retorted Issei unhappily. I won't say they are innocent in the matter. A maiden's heart may be complicated, but a man's heart is fragile, no matter what the media might say these days, said Azazel. Issei hummed at this, but didn't respond. Although, don't you think you are being a little unfair with them? Asked Azazel. Funny, Sertx asked me almost the same thing. Come to think of it, I bet he no doubt contacted you and Michael, after I confronted him and them, said Issei calmly. He did, confirmed Azazel. In that case, I shouldn't need to repeat myself, but I will, just in case you missed the memo, said Issei, briefly pausing. I wanted to do much worse, but promised Gabriel otherwise, and also, I'm doing being played with. That goes for you too, Azazel, said Issei firmly. Ah, I see. I guess you were serious about that then. Very well, as a man, a fallen angel, and, let's be honest here, the reason you are so angry, said Azazel, getting Issei to narrow his eyes at him. What? Asked Issei. I apologize for my subordinate's actions and for the pain it caused you, said Azazel, as he stood and gave Issei a small bow, before heading for the door. Just before Azazel had reached the door, Issei spoke to him. I'll be honest here, I acknowledge your apology, but I don't accept it, said Issei, getting Azazel to turn his body, to face him again. Also, I should point out, that despite it being your fault it was there to begin with. If they had cared about me and understood the pain in my heart, we wouldn't be in this situation right now and they wouldn't be heading to their imminent defeat, at the hands of Sarayorg in his peerage, continued Issei. Azazel gave a stiff nod and made to turn around, before Issei said one last thing. And just for your personal amusement, I've already had sex on that couch 4 times, said Issei, pointing to the couch Azazel had just been sitting on. Azazel laughed uproariously before turning to the door and opening it. Well, at least you haven't changed completely, laughed Azazel, as he gave one last look to Issei. No, but I have changed a lot, said Issei with a smirk, as his 10 red angel wings burst from his back. I see. In any case, I'll let them know. You might be surprised though, at what they do now, said Azazel, before leaving, closing the door behind him. Like I care what they do anymore, thought Issei with a frown. Will you die for me? Issei growled, before deciding to go take a shower. Man, I hate that bitch, thought Issei angrily, as his mind was still plagued by a certain fallen angel. Line break. That is rather interesting, Ravel, said Lady Phoenix, a mirror image of her daughter, Ravel, in her 20s, the only exception being her hair, which was done up with ornate hair decorations. I don't follow, mother, said Ravel in confusion. Well, from the sounds of things, not only has he cut all ties with the Gremory princess, but he in fact holds no ill will towards you. There could not be a better outcome, said Ravel's mother. But mother, how can you say that? Asked Ravel in shock. Do you not remember what happened with your brother? Questioned Lady Phoenix. Ravel frowned slightly, remembering the spectacle that was the failed marriage between Riser Phoenix and Rias Gremory. While there was nothing we could do, since Riser accepted the challenge, it doesn't mean we were happy with it. Sertx might as well have cornered Riser into doing it, as, due to Riser's pride, he fell for it easily and we lost the marriage, continued Lady Phoenix. However, now, we might gain something even better, said Lady Phoenix, getting Ravel to look at her curiously. An angel. One who cannot fall. Add to the fact that he is the holder of the boosted gear. Well, That is quite a rare specimen, any way you look at it, said Lady Phoenix thoughtfully. I realize that, but considering the situation with President Rias, said Ravel uncertainly. Come now, Ravel. You know what we are devils. It is in our nature to be selfish. Besides, it was not us who caused the problem. From what you said, this has been the case even before the Gremory battled with Riser. The fact that the Gremory couldn't see the pain her pawn was in, is in no way our fault. The blame is solely hers to bear, said Lady Phoenix. I suppose that is true, nevertheless, I feel somewhat guilty, confessed Ravel, as she looked down. My dear, I'm not saying you must do anything right now. All I am saying, is that you should act as you would have prior to this incident. You don't need to feel guilty, for something you did not do, said Lady Phoenix kindly. He did say he doesn't hold any of it against me, agreed Ravel. Indeed, and he even considers you his friend still. You are fortunate, said Lady Phoenix, before sighing, upon seeing Ravel's still unsure expression. Listen to me, Ravel, said Lady Phoenix kindly, getting Ravel to look at her again. I may sound selfish here, but I only want what is best for my children. No matter what has happened to him, I can still see that you care deeply for the Red Dragon, or rather, Issei Hyudo. Whether he was a devil and part of Rias Gremory's peerage, or whether he is now an angel, nothing has changed for you. I don't want you to have any regrets, and if you really love Hyudo, you should continue to pursue him, if that is what you want. While it is all well and good to be considerate of others, you should not do so at the expense of your own feelings, said Lady Phoenix kindly. Ravel nodded at this with a smile. I understand, mother, and thank you, said Ravel. What are mothers for? Questioned Lady Phoenix, with a smile of her own. Line break. Issei walked to school the next day. Thanks to Azazel, he knew that the Occult Research Club would not be at school today, which he was somewhat relieved about. The day started off normal enough, but after lunch, Saji was sent to pick up Issei, as Sana wanted to talk with him. As the two walked, Saji observed Issei for a while, noticing that not only his appearance, but even his mannerisms had changed quite a deal. Even simple things, like the way he walked and the way he held himself, had changed. So, is there a reason Sana wants to see me? Asked Issei curiously. She wouldn't say, only that there is something she wants you to see, replied Saji. There was a lull once again, before it was broken by Saji, as they neared Sana's office. Why did you do it? Asked Saji curiously. That's a pretty vague question, said Issei, getting Saji to frown slightly. All right, just a joke, I know what you are talking about, no need to get all moody, said Issei with a small chuckle, before turning serious. Tell me, Saji, if Sana turned on you, would you still care about her? Asked Issei. What do you mean, why would Sana turn on me? Asked Saji, genuinely confused, as the two stopped just outside Sana's office. If Sana betrayed you, would you still care for her? Could you still proclaim you love her, if she broke your heart? Asked Issei with a frown. Saji didn't respond, and merely looked at Issei strangely. If the rest of her peerage turned on you, if nearly everyone you thought was your friend, turned on you, could you look at them the same way? Asked Issei again. What do you mean? How did they turn on you? Asked Saji in confusion. Answer this for me, Saji. If you risked your life for someone, put your body through hell for someone, endured endless suffering for someone, just so that someone could be happy, would you consider that proof of one's love? Asked Issei. Saji blinked at this, before responding as Issei expected him to. Yeah, I suppose, said Saji with a small shrug. Well, apparently, that wasn't enough for Rias Gremory, who seemed to think that everything I did for her wasn't enough to show that I loved her, said Issei, before opening the door to Sana's office. Sana stared at Issei with a frown, but also possessed a hint of surprise in her eyes. Based on that look, I take it you must have overheard what I just said to Saji, concluded Issei. I did, replied Sana curtly. Do you disagree? Asked Issei. Sana stared at Issei for a few seconds, before shaking her head. No, I suppose you do have a point. Rias is my friend and I want the best for her, but even I can't deny that she made a mistake here, said Sana coldly. Well, in any case, what is it that you wanted? Asked Issei after a moment. Although you are no longer a part of her peerage, I believe that you should at least watch her match with Sarayorg," said Sana, as a small screen dropped down behind her. Issei blinked at this, before sitting down in the seat opposite Sana and settled himself in, to watch Sarayorg's peerage and Ria's peerage battle for supremacy. Chapter 5. Talking. Thinking. Drake talking and sacred gear sounds. Drake thinking. Expression. Flashback. Chapter 5, The Battle. Now, the battle of the century is about to begin. From the East Gate, it's Sarayorg Bale's team, said the announcer, who was met with roars of approval from the excited crowd. And finally from the West Gate, it's Rias Gramarie's team, finished the announcer, getting many more screams of excitement. The Gramarie group looked unsettled though. Their heart wasn't with them as they marched out, the masses couldn't pick up on it, but Sarayorg easily did. Sarayorg searched for the one he wanted to fight the most, Issei Hyudo, Red Dragon Emperor. However, he wasn't there. As the announcer told everyone the rules, Sarayorg came to a decision. Once the announcer finished speaking and said for the two teams to head to their area, Sarayorg spoke up. Since the Gramarie group is missing their pawn at this time, I too will take my pawn out of the equation, declared Sarayorg loudly. What's this? Asked the announcer, before looking at the Gramarie group closely. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems as though the famed Red Dragon Emperor is not present today. This might explain why there was a delay for this match. However, Sarayorg has graciously taken his pawn out of the battle as well, equalizing things, said the announcer loudly. The crowd was surprised at this, noticing that the Oppai dragon was indeed not present. Some of the crowd cheered for Sarayorg, for his gesture, while others muttered quietly at the lack of the Red Dragon Emperor. The Gramarie group could say nothing and went to their area in silence. Line break. The first match, Hyudo Kiba up against Baraka Furkaz, a knight of Sarayorg, from the House of Furkaz, a family that tames horses and one of remaining 72 pillar families. Kiba was being beat back by Furkaz and was struggling. I have to use that it seems, muttered Hyudo to himself, thinking of his ace. Before Kiba could use his ace though, the angry visage of Issei briefly appeared in his mind. No, but still, I can't lose here, thought Kiba. Baraka, allow me this one chance. Come at me with everything you have in one strike, shouted Kiba, surprising many. Ho, that is an odd request, it sounds like something my king would say, said Baraka, from atop his stead. Very well, I will indulge you, said Baraka, agreeing to the request, getting the crowd to cheer. The crowd roared in approval, as the two knights charged at each other. I'm sorry, Issei, also, I'm sorry, President, thought Kiba after the clash, as both he and his opponent had been retired. Line break. The second match had Konako and Rossius against one of Sarayorg's rooks, Gondoma Balam, and the other knight of their team Liban Krosel. Gondoma was a behemoth of a man, 3 meters tall and full of muscle, particularly his arms, which wouldn't have been out of place on a giant. Liban, on the other hand, was a gentle-looking blonde, equipped with a sword and light armor. I can't, thought Konako, remembering Issei's words in the classroom and the power of his senjutsu, before remembering her sister and shuddering slightly. Konako, what's wrong? Asked Rossius in concern. Konako didn't answer. The battle ended in a draw once again. Konako was taken out quickly, and Rossius exhausted all her strength to take down their two opponents, leading to the 4 of them being retired. Line break. Governor Azazel, as we near the halfway point, is there anything you can say on this odd turn of events? Asked the announcer curiously. Yes, it seems that the Gramarie group is lacking their heart in this battle. Though it is too soon to say so, I don't think that they will be able to overcome Sarayorg and his peerage, who are all united under his dream, said Azazel honestly. Line break. The next match had Zenovia and Gasper face Ludorabune, the remaining knight for the Bale team, and Mistita Sabnok, the male bishop. The battle was not much of one. Zenovia was cursed quickly into the fight by the bishop, who temporarily sealed her ability to use her holy swords, while Gasper sacrificed himself to buy time, until Zenovia's curse wore off. Afterwards, she unleashed Ex Durandal on both her opponents, taking them out. However, Gasper too fell in battle, leaving the Gramarie group with only a knight, a queen, a bishop, and a king, with no pawn. Line break. The Battle of Queens was next, Akeno Heimjima against Kuisha Abaddon. The two took to the air and clashed with intense blasts of demonic energy. If Akeno used fire, Kuisha countered with ice. If Akeno used water, Abaddon used wind. It was a stalemate. Come now, Holy Lightning Priestess, is that all you have to offer? You certainly don't live up to your namesake. Taunted Kuisha. Akeno stiffened at this, recalling as Issei claimed he would kill himself, if he ever became a fallen angel. I don't need Holy Lightning to beat you. Roared Akeno, as she unleashed a multitude of attacks at Kuisha, exhausting herself. Kuisha laughed at this and a massive hole appeared in front of her, which sucked in all of Akeno's attacks. This is the end for you. Declared Kuisha boldly. A multitude of holes quickly surrounded Akeno and unleashed all her magic back on her, who, in her exhausted state, was easily retired. Line break. The next to last fight was one not in the Gremory group's favor. A 12 was rolled, so Sereorg himself came out to fight. Rias couldn't be sent out, as she had no illusions about beating a fresh Sereorg, and Rias didn't want to send Asia out, so Zenobia alone went to face Sereorg. Knight of Gremory, before this fight begins, please answer me this: where is the Red Dragon Emperor? Asked Sereorg. Zenobia sighed slightly, before answering. Issei felt as though he was being unfairly treated and neglected, so he left the peerage in an almost suicidal attempt. Said Zenobia honestly. You mean to say that he forcibly changed from a devil to something else? Asked Sereorg curiously. Yes, using his will, he expelled his evil pieces and nearly died in doing so. Answered Zenobia. I see. I thought Hyuda was a man of substance, a man who I considered a worthy rival. Said Sereorg in thought, before shaking his head. However, it seems I was wrong and he is simply a coward, one who cannot face his challenges head on. Finished Sereorg, getting Zenobia to glare at him. How dare you? Hissed Zenobia angrily, getting Sereorg to look at her with a raised eyebrow. You have no idea, we too, had no idea it seems, but I won't let you spit on Issei's name like that, regardless of whether he is a member of President's peerage or not. Whispered Zenobia, before shouting towards the end. Sereorg grinned at this. There it is. That fire that has been missing from all of you so far. Come Holy Sword Wielder, give me the fight that Hyuda won't. Said Sereorg challengingly, as a weird mark appeared on all four of his limbs. Shallow lights started to pour out from Sereorg's limbs, before the marks vanished. A huge explosion burst from Sereorg, the wind pressure from the blast, forming a crater under him. Sereorg's body was now bathed in a white glow. It was Toki. Zenobia was oblivious to the muttering of the crowd and the announcer, and charged at Sereorg. Sereorg fearlessly charged the oncoming Holy Sword Wielder as well. Zenobia swung Ex Durandal at Sereorg, who met it with a fist. Waves of energy burst from both of them, blinding them and the crowd. When they jumped back, the results of the clash were revealed. Oh, you actually cut through my Toki, even wounded me slightly. Said Sereorg appraisingly, as he observed a small cut on his fist. I won't let you insult Issei like that. He's already suffered enough and I won't let you add to that, especially by insulting him. Said Zenobia coldly. I see. I'm impressed by your will, so much so, that I will face you, head on, as I would have faced him. Said Sereorg, as the Toki surrounding him increased. Sereorg charged Zenobia again, who once again, tried to meet him with Ex Durandal. Sereorg however, fearlessly continued his charge, bracing his left arm against the blade as he sunk his right fist into Zenobia's gut, causing a sickening crunch to be heard as he shattered two of her ribs and sent her to the ground. You were a good opponent. Said Sereorg, as he turned around and begun to walk away. Didonti, turn your back, on me? Yelled Zenobia, as she coughed up a wad of blood. Oh, you are rather durable for a knight. Commented Sereorg, genuinely impressed. Issei received this attack and kept on fighting. I will as well. Said Zenobia boldly. I might just be a stupid power type, one who knows nothing of strategy or tact, but still. I won't give up. Wheezed Zenobia. That is some spirit you have there. Very few people have wills that strong, especially after receiving an attack like that. Praised Sereorg. If I go down here without a fight, I'll never be able to face him again. Huffed Zenobia. Very well then. Along with my respect for your determination, I will give you this as well. Said Sereorg with sharp eyes, as all his Toki engulfed his right hand, causing the blood from the cut he received earlier, to evaporate from the pressure, while the fist itself seemed to glow with immense power. This is a punch which can give critical wounds by even touching it slightly. A half-hearted attack won't be able to stop this, said Sarayorg loudly. Zenovia was undeterred and focused all her power into her sword, gritting her teeth in concentration. Zenovia charged at Sarayorg, who stood there in wait. Hi-ya-ya-ya-ya! Roared Zenovia, as she brought the dual holy sword down on Sarayorg's arm, before an enormous flash occurred. When the light died away, there was Sarayorg, missing his right arm, however collapsed at his feet, was the motionless form of Zenovia. Magnificent! I will give you my right arm. You truly proved yourself a worthy opponent, said Sarayorg to the downed Zenovia, before her exhaustion overcame her and she passed out. Line break. After this battle, Sarayorg proposed a one-on-one battle between kings, to decide the battle, since it would be inevitable, with only Asia and Rias left. After some discussion, Sarayorg's proposal was accepted and the two kings faced each other. I wanted to fight the Red Dragon Emperor, said Sarayorg, getting Rias' attention. I wanted to prove that I was even stronger than that fabled creation, to cement my reputation, continued Sarayorg. However, it seems something has happened between him and all of you, said Sarayorg, getting Rias to look down. I won't pry, it is none of my business, and the way that knight fought for his honor, it would be disrespectful for me to accuse him of being a coward again, especially with her taking my arm and forcing me to use my phoenix tear, said Sarayorg, genuinely impressed with Zenovia. That being said, I'm afraid I will not hold back here today, cousin. Prepare yourself, Rias Gremory, declared Sarayorg. Line break. The match was over. Rias stood no chance against Sarayorg. Even at her best, Sarayorg would have crushed her. As it was, she was beaten within a minute, unable to land a single hit on Sarayorg. Sarayorg Bale had totally and utterly defeated Rias Gremory. Chapter 6. Talking. Thinking. Drake talking and sacred gear sounds. Drake thinking. Expression. Flashback. Chapter 6, Would You Love Me? Issei had watched the entire match, with a poker face that Sana could not see through in the slightest. Even as each of his former and some current friends were trounced by their opponents, Issei didn't flinch in the slightest, never tearing his eyes from the screen. As the battle ended and the broadcast switched to opinions on the battle from various people, Issei stood up. I will take my leave now, said Issei simply. Before you go, just tell me one thing, said Sana quietly. Issei paused, but didn't turn around. Will you ever forgive them? Asked Sana curiously. Issei didn't respond and merely stared at the door, leaving his back facing Sana. After a solid minute, Issei turned his head over his shoulder and looked Sana in the eye. Perhaps, said Issei, before closing his eyes and turning back to the door. Although, said Issei, getting Sana's attention. For some, there can be redemption. Whether I come to see them as friends again, is entirely different to whether I forgive them or not, said Issei, before walking to the door. However, some may be forgiven more easily than others, said Issei, before he opened the door and left, closing it behind him silently. Sana stared at the door for a moment, studying it intensely. Well, all things considered, things could be worse, but it seems Rias has lost her dragon for good, thought Sana grimly. Line break. You've been surprisingly quiet for a while now, Drake. Is something wrong? Thought Issei. No, not really, as strange as it may sound, things are in fact better for me now, replied Drake honestly. That's odd, better how? Asked Issei curiously, as he walked through Kyoah school, having finished some time during the battle between Sarayorg and Rias' respective peerages. Well, not to sound too selfish, but ever since that time, your perverseness had gone down quite a bit. Even more after you talked with Gabriel, and even more after that, when you mated with that Nico Xiao, it even lessened each time you did it, said Drake thoughtfully. I don't understand, thought Issei in confusion. Well, with the Gremory acknowledging your perverseness and using it to help you get stronger, my heart was almost broken, especially after that old geezer gave us those appalling names, said Drake, sounding close to tears. However, since then, you've changed and become stronger in non-perverse ways, even faster than I could have imagined. You are almost someone I can be proud of now, praised Drake. Yeah. I did put you through a lot, didn't I, Drake? Sorry about that, thought Issei sheepishly. A lot indeed, agreed Drake. Well, at least things are better now, thought Issei, before stopping at a door. Issei was now standing outside his previous residency. The Hyudo household, which, for all intents and purposes, was more like the occult research club household. Issei sighed for a moment, before knocking on the door. After a brief wait, Issei's father opened the door. "Issei," said Issei's father in shock. Issei didn't know what to expect, but he was suddenly pulled into the house and given a hug. "My boy, where did you disappear off to?" asked the older Hyudo male, before calling for his wife. Issei's mum came by after a moment and upon seeing Issei, quickly ran up to him and gave him a hug as well. "Haha, now I feel bad. I thought you would have been happy, having a bunch of pretty daughters, without a perverted son," said Issei with a laugh. "Even if you're a pervert, you're our little pervert," said Issei's dad jovially, with his wife nodding, before he leaned in closer. "And, to be honest, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree," whispered Issei's father, getting his son to look at him in surprise. "Why you mean?" asked Issei in shock. He just gave Issei a small wink, before leaning back. "Where have you been all this time?" asked Issei's mother. "Well, that's some story, but mostly, it was a journey of self-discovery. I even got my own house and a job now," said Issei with a chuckle. "Really?" asked Issei's mum in surprise. "Yep, I really grew up," said Issei proudly. "I'll say, just look at how big you've gotten. I can't believe I'm envious of my own son," said Issei's dad, referring to his son's new and impressive physique. "Hee well, if I'm going to be a man, might as well look like one, right?" asked Issei bashfully. "I'll go make us some tea," said Issei's mother, before heading to the kitchen. "In the meantime," said Issei's dad, as he dragged Issei to a single-seat sofa and sat himself down on the couch. "I want to know who the special lady is," said Issei's dad quietly to Issei. "What lady?" asked Issei in surprise. "Don't be coy with me. You think I wouldn't notice my little boy finally graduated from a little pervert to a man? I'll bet that is where the new physique came from," said Issei's dad, getting his son to look away bashfully. Well, it is someone new actually," confessed Issei. "I figured. They didn't say anything, but a lot of the girls around here have been rather sad this past month. They tried to hide it, but, being married for such a long time, helps you pick up when a girl is hiding something. I'm guessing something happened between you all," said Issei's father sagely. Issei was rather surprised at his father's foresight, but nodded nonetheless. Yeah, some things happened and things are not quite right between us all right now. It is also the reason I got a new place," said Issei truthfully. "I see, well enough about that, tell me about this new girl. Is she stacked?" asked Issei's dad lecherously. "Well, I can't deny I'm my father's son," thought Issei in amusement. "Yeah, she is," said Issei with a chuckle, before his mother came and set down tea for all of them and sat next to her husband. "Well, tell us about her, Issei. How'd you meet?" asked Issei's dad. "Another?" asked Issei's mother in surprise, to which her husband nodded. "Well, it was interesting to say the least," said Issei with a nervous chuckle, as he recalled meeting Kurika again. Line break. Flashback. Line break. "Okay, I think I missed Q badly," said Issei aloud, as he looked around and found himself in a strange open meadow. There was a lush forest behind him, with a small town to the front of him, but something felt off to Issei. "It feels like I'm seeing something, but it doesn't exist," thought Issei in confusion, before he quickly jumped back to avoid a blast of energy. Issei quickly summoned Drake, preparing to enter his balance breaker, when he heard a voice. "Naya? Red Dragon Emperor, what are you doing here, Naya?" asked a voice that Issei recognized. As the smoke kicked up from the attack cleared, a voluptuous woman in a black kimono was revealed to Issei. Accident," said Issei, as he lowered his guard somewhat. "Naya? You managed to find this place by accident?" questioned Kurika in surprise. "Yeah, what is this place anyway?" asked Issei curiously, lowering his arm so it was now by his side again, but not dropping his guard. Don't worry about that, although, now that you're here, even if it was by accident, what do you say about giving me some kittens, Naya?" proposed Kurika, as she walked closer to Issei, until she was right in front of him and looked up at him with a half-lidded gaze. "Would you love them? Would you love me, as well?" Asked Issei seriously. Of course I would. What mother wouldn't love her kittens and her mate? Purred Kurika. Issei stared into her eyes for a moment, searching for the truth before closing his eyes and giving a small nod. Okay, why not? Said Issei. Naya! Exclaimed Kurika in shock, as her eyes widened in surprise. What, were you joking? Asked Issei curiously. No. I just didn't think you'd accept. Said Kurika still in shock. Well, you were straightforward about it, so why not? Asked Issei, as he caused the boosted gear to disappear. Is this a joke? Asked Kurika curiously, eyes narrowing. Nope. Said Issei simply. That's fine with me then. Said Kurika, as she pushed Issei onto his back and slowly crawled up to him. You know, I have so many questions right now, but I'm not going to let a chance like this pass by. Said Kurika, before she planted her soft lips on Issei's own. Issei reciprocated the kiss in turn, finally letting his guard down. Not bad. I guess that wasn't your first kiss? Asked Kurika, as she pulled her head back, breaking the kiss. Well, technically no, but that was a first, as far as an intense kiss goes. Replied Issei honestly. Kurika smiled, before coming down for another kiss, this time slipping her tongue into Issei's mouth, which he met with his own. Pulling back from the kiss, Kurika sat up and pulled her obi off, dropping it beside them, letting her kimono open slightly, showing more of her cleavage. Well, Red Dragon, are you getting excited, Naya? Asked Kurika. If we are going to do this, at least call me Issei. Said Issei with a small frown. Alright then. Said Kurika, before she opened her kimono, revealing her chest to Issei. Well, Issei, are you getting excited now, Naya? Asked Kurika. Issei didn't give a verbal reply, but instead, sat up and grasped Kurika's ample bosom with both hands. Kurika mewed in enjoyment at Issei's ministrations. Issei gently fondled her sizable assets in equal parts curiosity and wonder. They're so soft. Commented Issei, slightly surprised. Naya? Well, Nikomata normally choose a suitable male to reproduce with, however, trying to do so without generous assets is difficult. Explained Kurika happily. Issei suddenly grew bolder and latched onto Kurika's bosom with his mouth, while his hands focused on the one he left unattended. Kurika gasped at the sudden sensation and wrapped her arms around Issei's back tightly. After a moment, Issei switched his mouth over to the other breast, causing Kurika to let out an appreciative moan. Eventually, Kurika had enough and gently released her grip on Issei's back and brought her hands to his shoulders, before gently pushing him down again. Well, I think you're ready, Naya. Said Kurika, feeling a bulge pressing against her posterior. Kurika snaked down Issei's body, until she was now resting on his thighs. Teasingly, Kurika reached down and caressed Issei's lower abdomen, before her hands reached his belt. Using slow, deliberate movements, Kurika undid the belt and pulled it off Issei's pants. You won't be needing this for a while, Naya. Said Kurika, as she dropped it next to her obi. Kurika then unbuttoned Issei's pants and unzipped them, before pulling them down, leaving him in only his underwear. Issei merely gazed at Kurika, his eyes alternating between her teasing gaze and her bountiful chest. Issei couldn't decide which was more attractive, although, he reasoned that the gaze would change, but the breasts wouldn't, therefore, the breasts were superior. Kurika then, unlike previously, quickly pulled off Issei's underwear, revealing her prize. Kurika gazed at it thoughtfully for a moment, before looking at Issei. What, no insecurities about size, Naya? Teased Kurika, getting a shrug and somewhat lecherous smirk from Issei. Hey, it'll get the job done, won't it? Retorted Issei, which made Kurika smirk. Well, you're not wrong, Naya. Replied Kurika with a Cheshire-like smirk, before grasping the object in question. For the record, it is big enough, with a little extra, so you can rest assured, Naya. Teased Kurika, getting Issei to mentally exhale in relief. Thought she caught my bluff, but, she says it is big, awesome. Thought Issei proudly. Well, are you ready to become a man, Naya? Questioned Kurika teasingly. I don't know why you're still teasing me, you're the one who wants kittens. Pointed out Issei, while inwardly restraining himself from cracking. I guess you have a point, Naya. Said Kurika thoughtfully, before, in one swift movement, she impaled herself on Issei. Oh, this feels good. Moaned Kurika happily, even leaving out her usual verbal tic momentarily. Issei, once again sat up, and again attacked Kurika's chest with his hands and mouth. The double stimulatory effect caused Kurika to moan throatily. Not to be outdone, Kurika quickly regained her senses and ground into Issei softly, getting him to pause in his ministrations and release a soft moan himself. "Naya, that's more like it," whispered Kurika, as she brought her lips down to Issei's once again, while continuing to grind the two of them together. Kurika pushed Issei down once again. "You can be in charge next time," said Kurika simply, before raising herself off Issei's body, before slamming back down on him. Kurika repeated her actions, mewling in pleasure all the while. Issei himself was captivated by Kurika's bountiful bouncing chest, unable to do anything at the sight of them, coupled with the pleasurable sensations that Kurika was currently administering. Kurika's moans started to increase in volume, before she was startled somewhat, by two hands gripping her firm posterior. "You can be in charge, but I'll help," said Issei simply, before he strengthened his grip and proceeded to assist Kurika, as she bounced on him. With both of them working together, the two quickly approached their climax. Kurika, I'm pretty sure, I know your answer, but out, or in?" asked Issei, as he was barely holding himself back. "Naya? Don't ask stupid questions, you know I'm not letting moan a single drop escape," said Kurika, breathing heavily, as the two approached their respective ends. Kurika went first, slamming down on Issei, as she gripped him tightly, which, in turn, caused Issei to reach his limit as well. After a few seconds, Kurika collapsed onto Issei, their chests pressing against each other, as both lay there panting. "As far as accidents go, this was the best one of my life," said Issei, after he had regained his breath. "Well, I didn't expect this would happen either, but I'm glad I was the scout today, Naya," said Kurika. "Yeah, you never did tell me where I was," said Issei thoughtfully, as he wrapped his arms around Kurika's slender back. "Do you really want to know? Or, would you rather we go for round 2, Naya?" asked Kurika with a seductive smirk. "Well, I still need about another minute before I'm ready, why not just give me the short version?" suggested Issei. "You're near where I, along with the rest of Team Volley, are currently hiding," said Kurika honestly. They won't come here, right? Like, if you don't report back within an hour, they won't come and search for you, right?" asked Issei nervously. "Not for another 3 hours, although, I'm sure Issei would love to join in, Naya," replied Kurika teasingly. "Yeah, well, I don't really relish the idea of Volley or Baikao coming over here," said Issei with a grimace. Well, in any case, it's been a minute, so time for round 2, Naya," said Kurika, before she sat up again. "Best accident ever," thought Issei. Line break. After numerous rounds of intercourse, the amorous duo had got redressed and Issei finally told Kurika what had happened to him recently. "Naya? Let me see your wings then, please Issei, Naya," asked Kurika shyly, with a small blush, biting her index finger coyly. "Gah, who could refuse such a face?" questioned Issei, before his wings burst from his back. Kurika looked so excited seeing them and practically pounced on Issei, pushing him back to the floor. "Ah. That hurt, you know," said Issei, as his wings fluttered. "Wow, they even move like my tails," said Kurika in childish awe, before she softly caressed his wings with both hands. "This feels weird," said Issei, as strange tingles raced through his spine. "Good or bad?" asked Kurika curiously. "Sort of good, but mostly weird," explained Issei. Can you wrap me in them?" asked Kurika coyly. Issei tried to bring his wings in and they obeyed, enveloping Kurika. "Naya, so warm and fluffy. Good night," said Kurika with a yawn. "Oi, you can't just fall asleep on me like that," said Issei indignantly, but Kurika was already fast asleep, curling up against him unconsciously. "Sigh, well, I am a little tired myself," muttered Issei, before going to sleep as well. Line break. "Do you think we should do something?" asked a man. "I'm not sure, they look comfortable," replied a girl. "Still, she should have reported back a while ago," added the man. Well, maybe they got distracted," suggested the girl timidly. Well, knowing Kurika, If someone like him agreed to helping her achieve her dream, I guess she would take it, especially with Vala constantly refusing her. Said the man. Naya, Arthur, be quiet, I'm trying to nap here. Mumbled Kurika sleepily. That's all well and good, despite that fact that you never reported back. Although, being on top of the Red Dragon Emperor, who currently has 10 angel wings, never mind that he is meant to be a devil, wrapped around you, is something unusual. Replied Arthur, the wielder of Caliban. I'll explain later, I need to test something now that you reminded me of it. Said Kurika, now wide awake. Issei, time for round 8, or 7, or 9. I forgot. Said Kurika, rousing Issei, whose wings opened involuntarily, as he stretched his arms. Issei blinked, before looking into Kurika's playful eyes, before glancing to the left and seeing the 2 blonde-haired Pendragon siblings. Issei sighed at this, before palming his face. I told you someone would come. Muttered Issei with a groan. Well, it isn't Vala or Baikao, and look, even Issei came, Naya. Said Kurika happily. I'm not doing this, in front of them. Said Issei quietly. Naya? Fine then. Said Kurika. I'll be back in half an hour. Said Kurika, as she made a shooing motion with her left hand at the siblings. What do you need half an hour for? Asked Issei curiously. Don't worry Issei, let's just go wait for her. Said Arthur, as he turned and headed away from the Nico Shaoen dragon, gesturing for Issei to follow him. After a brief pause, Issei nodded, turned on her heel and left. Okay, round 8, this time I'm in charge. Said Issei, once they disappeared. Oh, taking charge are we, Naya? Questioned Kurika teasingly. Fine, but keep your wings out, I want to see something, Naya. Said Kurika. Issei rose an eyebrow at the weird request, before shrugging. Fine. Said Issei, getting Kurika to smirk. Line break. End flashback. Line break. Well, I can say that I had met her a while ago. However, I ran into her again about 3 days after I left here. Said Issei, after snapping out of his memories. Really, how did that go? Asked Issei's mother. Well, it was interesting, we talked, mostly about what we had each been up to lately. After a while, she recommended I get a place to stay, since I have a job, and she offered to help out as well. Since then she's been teaching me some new things. Said Issei lamely. When can we meet her? Asked Issei's father. Well, the truth is, she is actually Konako's big sister and they're not exactly on the best of terms at the moment, so I don't think bringing her by is a good idea right now. Said Issei uneasily, after all, Kurika was a stray devil, and devils lived here. I see. Well, hopefully once they reconcile you can introduce us. Said Issei's father. Sure, why not? Said Issei, with a slightly nervous chuckle. After a bit more small talk, Issei decided that it was time for him to leave. Come by again soon. Said Issei's mother from the door, her husband behind her as they both waved at their son. Will do. Said Issei with a smile, before walking off. Well, isn't that nice? He got himself a girlfriend and everything seems to be going so much better for him now. Said Issei's mother. Yeah, that's the reason. Thought Issei's father perversely.